when you're using ChatGPT, you're putting in your prompt, right? It's very similar to that, except for you find instances where there's reusable tasks. So tasks where you're going to be running this over and over again. Like if you're an agency and you're reviewing for every one of your clients, all their nurture email sequences, right? Well, it would make sense to make a custom GPT, which is just a set of instructions you give ChatGPT so that when you paste in subject line and the body content of an email, it goes through and says, hey, here are the 9 criteria that I want you to look at this email through the lenses of, and I want you to provide feedback on how we're doing in those 9 areas, and then give actionable feedback on what we should do next with this email. Is it good? Do we need to make improvements? And so it's just an instruction set for the GPT to kind of give a frame of reference of the requests, right? And so it's really powerful when you have these reusable use cases within your teams. But yeah, so spending some time like building that out for our team internally and also for our clients as well, of like what can we share with them.
All right, what's up, everybody? How you doing? Allison told me there's 90-something people here before we started, so people are here early, which is awesome. My name is Dave Gerhardt. I am the founder of Exit 5. I was going to make up I'm the founder, the president, the CEO, the chief meme officer. I don't know what it is, but my name is Dave. I'm the founder of Exit 5. Exit 5 is the top B2B marketing community out there for marketers like you and me who want to grow our careers in this crazy time of AI. It is like unbelievable how fast things are moving and what's happening out there. And so it's a great time to be creating content here at Exit 5. It's a great time to be a marketer. I think I'm choosing the optimist view here. I think it's easy to be negative. I think it's easy to think that the robots and the AI are going to take over the world and ruin our jobs and creativity is done and all that. But I'm going to choose the optimist view. And I think there's a lot of cool potential and use cases for AI and marketing. And I've been saying behind the scenes to people that I maybe I've been talking about this stuff for 15 years now. And I went through a period of a couple of years. I was kind of burnt out on it. There's only so much, ABM and direct mail and B2B marketing isn't boring. I promise you that you can talk about. But lately I'm feeling fired up. I'm feeling energized about what's possible with AI. And it's given a fun rebirth and a new challenge in marketing. And so I got more energy than ever. I'm starting to get a little tan up here in Vermont because we got some sun, and I'm excited to be hanging out with you all today. And a great feedback, a great signal that we get is when we put out one of these live sessions that we do. Don't call them webinars; they're not. They kind of are. When we do one of these live sessions, we do. Sometimes we have to do more promotion. Sometimes we do less. This one we sent out like 2 emails and did 2 LinkedIn posts about it, and we have almost 1,200 people registered for this. And that is because I think that this topic, WTF, what the frig, because we don't curse. I curse a lot. My mom told me, she said, she listened to one of my videos. She said I curse too much. So what WTF is GTM engineering. I think this topic just clearly struck a chord. There's a lot of questions out there. There's a lot of people who want to understand this role or maybe question this role. And so we have an awesome crew from Compound Growth Marketing and others here to join us today. And we're going to have an awesome discussion. All of these sessions, exactly, Nick's not a webinar, 100%, definitely not a webinar. All these sessions are recorded. We'll send that all to you later. The best part about these, before I welcome in our guests, Allison, behind the scenes, the best part about these sessions, though, is that it's all marketers in the chat. It's all people like you and me who are doing marketing, have done marketing. And so it's not just about what we say on stage here. It's about the chat. And so I want you to, be an active participant in here. You're obviously here for a reason. If you took an hour out of your day today to come rock with us in one of these things, like that means there's something you care about. So be active in the chat, help each other out. Answer questions. Then if you have questions you want us specifically to answer, you can put them in the Q&A. Okay, without further ado, if you can hear me right now, everybody's already writing in, but let me know. I want to know in the chat before we welcome up everybody. I want to know who you are and where you're from, but I also want to know, why did you come to this? Why come to this GTM engineering session? What do you want to know? Why did you decide to come from this? Victoria's in Boston. Christina is in Vienna. Vienna waits for you. Dylan is in Austin, Texas. Shout out to you. Laurie's in New York City. Cameron's in Atlanta. Johnny's in Vancouver. Allison, my homie's in Asheville. Quebec City. We got Toronto, stand-up Jersey via San Diego. Nobody's told me why they want to be here today so far. But all right, here, Liz. I'm Liz from NYC, curious about GTM engineers. And if I need one on my team, want to know, working with cold IQ GTM engineers and want a better understanding. Okay, awesome. All right, good. We got the right group of people here. Allison, why don't you send up our crew? What a response. Holy smokes. Adam says, I think I am one. Definitely. I'm a GTM engineer too. Right, John? I don't know about that. Toronto want to know what the hype is all about. Man, this is crazy. All right. Awesome. All right. So real quick, let's do around the horn. Tell me who you are. What do you do for work? And that'll just quick intros to set context for our faces and our voices. And then we'll hop in today. John, our fearless leader over here at CGM. Kick us off, sir.
Great. Yeah, I'm John. I'm the CEO over at
Hello.
Compound Growth Marketing.
Yep.
I spent the first decade of my career in-house. What's that, Dave?
In-house? Huh?
Can you hear me? Oh, I spent the
Yes.
first decade of my career in-house,
Okay.
building out performance marketing teams, and then started Compound Growth Marketing.
Cool. All right, let's go around the horn.
I'm Cammy. I'm
Don't be
Chief
afraid.
Customer Officer here at Compound Growth Marketing. I come from a 0 to 1 tech startup inside of a Series B services startup. So Atlas was the name of the software. It's a network-led growth product. And before that, I spent about 15 years at a global ad agency, actually, mostly doing B2C marketing. And so I've sort of spent the gamut on either end of the spectrum, doing large kind of consumer, real like advertising campaigns down to like 0 to 1, wearing every single hat, developing, end-to-end customer experience from go-to-market all the way down to actual consumer experience on the CS side of things before joining the team here. Really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to have you here. Justin, what about you, sir?
I'm one on the call that's not part of the Compound Growth team. So my name's Justin. I'm head of marketing at a company called ConnectPay. I'm coming to you from Central Florida. I'm actually in my first marketing role in this capacity. So I come from a life of product. I've been in product for a long time, both as a creative director, designer, managing product teams. So that's my background. Always been in B2B SaaS, new to payments, but big fan of the Exit 5 community and happy to be here with you guys.
Appreciate that. All right, nice to see you, Dan.
Hey everyone, my name is Dan. I am a GTM engineering lead, as you can see on the screen. I have a background in RevOps, and I actually got this role through Exit 5. So quick shout out right there. Me and John connected on Exit 5, and the rest is history.
All right, John, do you have a direction you want to send us in first, or do you want me to lead? And I have some ideas of where we can go, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to have the ball first.
No, why don't you lead the way?
All right. So my question straight out of the gate is, can we try to like back this up first? And there's been this rise of GTM engineering. I'm going to let you with this crew here try to define this. Sometimes people get mad. We'll do a webinar. Not shit. I said webinar. We'll talk for 40 minutes, and then someone will be like, "You never defined the thing." So let's come out of the gate and say, what is a GTM engineer? What is that role today? And then I want to kind of get back a little bit and talk about how did this role come from? Isn't this just marketing ops? First there was marketing ops, then, and don't yell at me, this is my opinion. First there was marketing ops, then marketing ops became RevOps, and now RevOps has become GTM engineering. Am I understanding that right? What's the role of GTM engineering today? Let's start there.
Yeah, so I want to pass the ball over to Cammy pretty quickly, but I want to recognize that we're in an upgrade cycle in the economy. And what that means to us, when we think about that at Compound Growth Marketing, we're seeing increased new technologies come onto the scene that are enabling new products to come into the market faster and find scale and offer new capabilities oriented around artificial intelligence. So that is one key thing that's happening. As a result of that, we're seeing fragmentation from like where you used to be able to do everything inside of HubSpot, or you had some major service providers who are providing utilities in certain ways. We're seeing a lot more tools come onto the market, which is requiring teams to connect systems together in order to work efficiently with the best technology out there. I also think capitalism works in really interesting ways where one of the killer use cases of artificial intelligence is its ability to make engineering teams more efficiently. So at the same time that we're all kind of starting to be concerned about our jobs. We're concerned about what's going to happen with engineering jobs on product. There's an incredible amount of flow of talent coming into the market who are looking for opportunities in different places than they originally were. They may have been working on product initially at Facebook, but now they can take a lot of that engineering and systems mindset and bring it into other capacities inside the organization as well. And so I think there's a lot going on, but the kind of driver of this is significant technological change and a rebuilding of the marketing technology stack.
Cam, you want to build on that?
Yeah. I think, so I think that's a really good preface as to like what's happening at the widest scale. I think drilling down to the role itself, for me, I think about like the actual definition of like the back end of the role is the signifier of operations versus engineering. I think about operations as someone who exists inside of existing systems, who's operating inside of existing systems, whereas an engineer can exist inside of existing systems, but is usually building systems. And then,
I don't know. Did you see in the chat, by the way, Vlad had a good comment to build on that, which is like a RevOps ads and integration GTM engineering builds one.
Exactly. Right. So like, if you think about existing systems versus building them, that's usually how I think about operations versus engineering. So I think Vlad's right. I think about the front end of those job sort of titles as the fluency of the language that you speak. So revenue, I think you skew more sales. Like you're right. There was probably it started as markups, and then you sort of became RevOps because you had to be fluent in both sales and marketing. And I think the expectation of a go-to-market fluency is really end-to-end. The motion itself is are you product-led versus sales-led? If you are a product-led, if the business motion is product-led, you have to know that. You can't just rely on sales. You have to.
Okay. All right. I'm vibing. I understand. Before I keep building on this, Dan, Justin, anything worth adding on this before we go deeper into GTM engineering?
Yeah, I love how you said marketing ops to RevOps to GTM engineering, because that's literally my career path right there. Just riding the wave there. But I guess the big difference, and I feel like a lot of people are confused where RevOps ends and where GTM engineering begins, right?
Yeah, or just my next, just to build on that, while not to interrupt you, while we build on this, like the question in my head is like, so if I'm the CMO, am I gonna do I now need both of these things, like, or you just evolved into that role, right, Dan?
Yeah. And when I was in RevOps, like the thought process I had is, how can I enable everyone, right? Like, how can I give them the data they need, the processes they need to do their jobs, actionable data that they can use to be a little bit better. So getting everybody up to that 100% mark, right? And in this new role in GTM engineering, I'm kind of thinking, okay, what can I do to give us a competitive edge? Not entirely a support role for everyone, but what competitive edge can I give us in our go-to-market motion, and how can I get us above that 100% line, right?
So is this like are we going back to like the era of like having a growth hacker on the marketing team? Is it closer to that?
I think it's similar, right? Like, I think that's there have been like large teams that have spurred in organizations where they have brought engineering into marketing before. Like, this isn't a new concept per se, but it's just something that you couldn't do at a smaller org, right? And now with these new tools coming up, it enables that kind of mindset again, right?
I feel like, sorry, go ahead, Justin.
Well, I was going to say, so I agree with everything you guys have said for sure. Cammy, when you were talking about the engineering, like the second half of the title being indicative of where time is spent, the two words that keep coming up for me when I think about the engineering side of go-to-market is like architecture and scale. And so for a marketer, thinking about being able to zoom out and come up with that strategy for connecting disparate systems with all the new tools and the new ways that we have of doing it now, it's much more of an architecture mindset. I think, and then it's being able to scale that. Like, anything that we do now has to be able to scale rapidly and almost lean more towards like personalized ABM marketing, where before that was a really separate initiative, but now you can kind of skirt the edge of that just with better tooling. So those are the things that come to mind.
Can you all try to take me a level deeper on this here? So like, one of my questions is like, okay, I got it. You got a GTM, like I can understand why you might want to have a GTM engineer on the team, but what's different now than like 10 years ago? Because I haven't been a marketing leader in a while, but in a past life, we hired an engineer to be on the marketing team, and her job was to like, hack stuff together and have development skills that we didn't have in-house. And we've also had, everybody's seen the MarTech, landscape. There's already been 30,000, 50,000, SaaS tools for marketers to use. And so what is it about AI specifically that makes this GTM engineering thing more relevant than ever? Maybe there's something to build on with where Justin was going with the infrastructure and architecture and scale, but I want to try to drill into that and understanding that like maybe not everybody on this call is an engineer. So what is it that's happened with AI in the last year or so that makes this different than like, yeah, we already had 50,000 software tools. Like I needed someone to integrate that. And I needed someone, marketing has been tech enabled for a while now. I've always needed somebody to be able to write code. So what's different now?
Yeah, I think it's actually, I think it goes back 14 years ago. So we tend to be on 7-year cycles. So there's like, what was it? 14 years ago, it was big data. Big data was the thing. Like Clive Humbly said that, data was the new oil. And then 7 years ago, it was machine learning. We were in the era of machine learning. And so there was like oil refinement, right? Yeah. And then now it's all about, we're in the AI era where AI is now universally available to everybody. And so we no longer need data scientists to make sense of all the data. That now like everybody is their own data scientist. And so what that means is that like now product is no longer a moat because literally anyone and their mom can make a product. So what that now means is that your moat is network effects. So the person who wins or the company that wins is the fastest to get the first customer on, because the first customer on means the second customer can get on and the fourth customer get on and the eighth customer can get on. And so your network effects can start to take effect. And so that means that your product has to be as simple as possible to buy. And that means that your go-to-market motion has to be treated like a product. And what makes that different is that the product's available. So what's different, like the go-to-market engineer now, different than the RevOps person before, or the growth hacker of yore, than before in that kind of capacity, as you were kind of calling it, Dave, that what's different now is the software is just different. And so software is not clunky anymore. It's not going to be clunky in the future. It is going to be incredibly easy to adopt. You won't have the same switching costs to, implode the entire organization, and something is, better, faster, cheaper. And so I think there is just going to be so much more available, and you can actually just work towards outcomes, and rather than adopting all of these sort of like complex workflows that take a team to hack together, or, incredible experts with like in crazy, degrees to hack together. And so I think it's really about people who are just really, really focused on increasing the revenue per employee, both from two angles. One is getting your sales team more, essentially more enabled, as Dan was saying, getting them plus 100%. And then two, getting revenue per employee down, trying to reduce headcount in the org.
So for the marketers here, like since this is a marketing focused session, like I get a bunch of it about, products are getting easy to build, but what are you all seeing on I think for most people here, this role would sit on the marketing team. So what are some specific examples maybe you're seeing from customers, other people in the world that like GTM engineers are? I still don't really know what they're doing. Like there's a lot of big words from all of you about infrastructure and integration, but like what do they do? Do they, is it like what Tom Wentworth did, which I saw this week? He's the CMO of a cybersecurity company, or developer tools, whatever they do, something I don't understand. And they made they did like a custom ABM campaign because they want to get Anthropic as a customer. And so they made some they growth hacked or GTM engineered some video game, and that's a cool play. Is it that stuff? Like I need more specific examples. Otherwise, I'm just going to leave this call thinking like, yeah, this is just another buzzword. Or someone in the chat said like, is this just Clay trying to like create a category around GTM engineering?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. So I'd love to kind of go into some of the examples that we've built. We're big fans of Tom here, and um, uh, so that's one of the campaigns that we've actually had the opportunity to work with him on, and a good example too of how I think a go-to-market
Wait, you
engineer.
guys did that with him?
We're working on the ABM campaign with Incident. Yeah.
Cool.
Um, And so it's a good, I mean, Tom is the ultimate go-to-market engineer. I think he was one of the first people to build on top of the Drift API and really think about how to use the tool in different ways. I would look at, if I were a company today, I'd look at breaking out the go-to-market engineering into different functions inside the funnel to think about like the mid-intent funnel. What are the different offers that we could build using Lovable and some of the other tools out there to capture customers when they're in pain? How can we get in front of those users and build a really strong engagement point for them? I think another interesting use case is we now have so much scale. We've been recording calls using Gong, Chorus, Fathom, all the call recorders recently. And so another interesting use case that we've been digging into and even seeing some of our customers using is, how do we analyze call data to understand intent, but also how can we start to use that for attribution, self-reported attribution.
Okay. We're getting warmer here. I'm taking notes. So, John, you've always been an advocate of this mid funnel stuff, which is like, for anybody that hasn't listened to me and John's conversations over the years, which I don't know why you would have, um, with maybe 200 of you that have been around. But basically, like, John's always kind of advocated for this. Like, if you, especially in the world of B2B, you hit a B2B website, and typically the main action on the website is to drive someone to get a demo, contact sales, get pricing, request a quote, right? And like, those are things that are much further down the funnel. And like, when I'm ready to buy, that's when I'm going to contact sales. I'm never like, you know what, I got an afternoon to kill. Why don't I contact sales for this piece of software I'm thinking about buying and see what it can be. And so, we've talked a lot about companies that have been built great tools and basically built products as marketing over the years. So things that come to mind, and feel free to put your ideas in the chat, but like, HubSpot's website grader is like the OG example of this, right? They sold SEO software and they created this amazing tool that if you'd put your website in, it would tell you all the things that were broken and wrong with it and how to fix them. And then like, behind the scenes, they now know that the person who filled that out like has an SEO problem and they can help them. Another one was Optimizely. They used to have a way to, preview A/B tests on your website, right? At Drift, we built a way to test the bot on our website. And so that's a cool, that's kind of cool now, where you're like, okay, if I got an engineer if I got a GTM engineer on my team, instead of, gated content and ebooks, like, we can really build some like high intent, like mid funnel tools here. And we're all sitting on this gold mine of like all these sales calls and customer calls that we have. It's not just like V1 of this listening to Gong to understand pain points. It's like, I can now take all of this data and use it, use an LLM to basically understand trends and understand topics and key objections. And then we can have a GTM engineer like build some experiences around this stuff so we can get people to interact with our stuff. Is it going in?
100%. Yeah. So I think part of the role here that we're talking about is there's like an element of R&D. I think Justin said that last week when we had a conversation about this, but there is a piece of, we have tons of unstructured data that we're now figuring out how to structure in order to pull insights from it. So, I think, Dave, you've been a proponent of, we don't need to measure everything.
Mhm.
We just kind of intuitively know that things are working for us because they're different. But, there are ways now that a go-to-market engineer can scan through Gong calls to even listen to the messaging of how customers are talking about a product or a category, to
Right.
understand how certain companies are having a influence on the market, right? Thinking back to the Drift days, you guys had conversational marketing. So it would be interesting if after you had launched that, to listen to the sales calls and see how many times that the prospects who are looking at purchasing Drift were using that in the conversation versus using some of the language that maybe your competitor at the time, Intercom, was using in their marketing messaging. And so, like, I think there's a customer feedback component to this of, we can take this call data, we can route it into AirOps, or we can route it into Clay. We can use it for messaging and helping us improve our ad copy. We can use it to help us build a persona GPT for our customers so that we can, understand how customers are thinking about this and even simulate the objections that they may have in the sales process, or to some of the messaging or ads that we put up across the internet. We can use that GPT to get feedback on how they'll respond to the website copy. So there's a ton of use cases that we can use just from that one prospect and customer feedback cycle.
Dan, Cammy, Justin?
Like, we use Anthropic. So I've got Claude set up with a couple different projects. So I'm trying to centralize, like, I think part of this engineering process is training your AI with the absolute best information that you can and organizing it incredibly well for future use, not just by yourself, but like as your team grows. I don't know what it would look like to open up Claude to a sales team. I don't think many of us probably want to think about that necessarily, but like if people could go crazy with content, but have it all be centralized to your product brain that's really well constructed for constant output and iteration, I think that's a big part of the engineering role too.
Yeah. Whoever's typing, I'm going to smack you. Go on mute if you're going to type. Pink shirt. So this is super. So like this is, man, okay, this is a perfect example. And Matt's messaging on the side of my team. I'm all fired up because this is the stuff when I'm like, yeah, this is what's fun. This is like what we can make fun with marketing. And this is where we can build great things. It was like, in the past, it was like, let's make an ebook and you're going to download it and then sales is going to call you. But now, what if we can take all this data and actually build a meaning? Because I still think that the best way to help somebody, the best way to get someone to buy something is to help them in whatever capacity. It's like, whether you're a real estate agent and you're going to have, make an amazing drone flyover mock-up of the house and like picture yourself at the house. Like, I need to, if I'm going to go spend $100,000 on a B2B product or 100, whatever it is, I need to feel good about that. I need to feel like that company helped me. That company understands me. That's going to happen later on in the sales process. But up front, man, if I had some tool, if I used your tool to like improve some process of mine, like I used, Optimizely's, website conversion tool back in the day, and like they helped me out for free and gave me a bunch of opportunities here. And now I have to upgrade and talk to their sales team and buy the product to get the full thing. Like that's where the gold here is like, we can get back to doing really good marketing stuff. And then as the copywriter, storyteller, nerd in me, I love the stuff about like using the customer, all the customer calls. John mentioned this persona GPT. Basically, you're missing out on a huge opportunity today if you don't have your ideal customer profile and your customer persona is like nailed. And then, whether you use Claude or ChatGPT or whatever, and you're constantly writing and iterating copy based on that, and you have this kind of brain that really understands your customers. Imagine being able to go and say, hey, what are the most common objections for the last 6 months on our sales call? And I know that as a marketer, and I can address some of those things, heads up going in. Question for our, this question's in the chat. I'm curious to hear this from our panelists. Everything that we're talking right now, and Christine, this is not who I think you are. I'm just kind of, this is how I read this. So like, but isn't that just PLG? How do we answer that?
What just PLG?
Everything we've just been talking about, like this like marketing stuff, creating marketing tools, like in that example, like these mid-funnel tools, isn't that just PLG? Or are we just going to have a silly debate about like names? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen isn't this just for a lot of things?
Right.
So
isn't this just ABM? Isn't this just good marketing?
Isn't this just RevOps with AI? Like,
yeah.
Sure. And like, so I think partially it's a challenge to kind of answer all of those at once and have everybody ask these like different questions. But then, we're kind of looking at it and I've been asked, isn't this just 5 different things? And now we have the ability to put this all into one function. So
yeah, I think
say
my
something?
read on that is like on PLG, and this is not to get into the nuance of definition, but like PLG to me is like, if the true definition of product-led growth, which is like you have Slack, and then Slack has a free plan and you try to get people in the free plan and upgrade them. I see this more as like we're using data and design and creativity and engineering to build tools that accelerate the marketing funnel. And
Yeah.
you might, this GTM engineering concept, you might not be a PLG company at all. You might sell something that is like super high touch. Like PLG also means like really touchless, right? Like I don't have
Yeah.
to talk to somebody. I don't have to like do this crazy onboarding. It's very, low friction. But you could sell a really high end, infrastructure type of product that is not PLG at all. But what we're talking about is using this new kind of role in marketing to basically have the power of a developer on your marketing team to make more interactive and engaging marketing content than kind of just the standard content playbook.
Yeah. And one thing I'd call out is when I was working with when I was working inside PLG companies, like when I was at Workable and I was at Yesware and I was at LogMeIn, sometimes that funnel is limiting because you're looking to drive a user in when they're looking to access when they are looking to set up email tracking, or they're looking to build an integration between Gmail and their Salesforce instance in Yesware's case. So I was sometimes limited by the funnel and the lens that I could bring users in to the product and ultimately drive them in. So in order to expand the opportunities to engage with those customers, that's where I would create a mid-intent funnel in order to get users to start to understand. So in Yesware's case, we knew that when somebody was in market, they were looking for email tracking, or they were looking for ways to connect their inbox with Salesforce automatically. But before they had that use case, they may be looking for email templates to share across their sales organization. And so we built out a mid-intent offer for free email templates. And so I think the mid-intent funnel is not meant to be PLG. It is meant to expand the breadth of helping you identify customers who are coming into market and ultimately, going to be looking for a solution like yours in the near future. And I think the same was true with Test Drive at Drift, Dave. When you launched that, and then we came on board and supported working for a segment of your audience, and you
Right.
had a part of your audience that needed to build the case internally in order to get Drift to the table and be able to have a conversation about it. And so I think in a sales-led motion, sometimes you do want those high engagement, great brand moments to ultimately push users down funnel and generate that velocity.
I also saw something that Imran just put in the chat in terms of, PLG companies usually need a free or a light version of their software. So coming from a sales-led organization, I guess the way that I look at it is, for a product-led company, they can pull somebody into the brand story sooner by getting that buy-in on trying it out on a temporary basis. But for sales-led companies that have like longer buying cycles and the threshold is higher, I think it's a way for us to tell a better story before somebody starts becoming engaged with the brand. So since we don't have that opportunity for like a light or a free version, it's how much of a better story can I surround my product with, my user stories with, all of those types of things to get them engaged in the brand rather than the free model.
Nice. Anything else before my big mouth keeps going?
No, there was a good question in the chat about the revenue per employee and thinking about, shout out to come back to Cammy's comment on revenue per employee. This feels like a core deliverable for what this role is focused on. Efficiency is the role. No, I love that call out. And I think that's a good kind of good area to dive in a little bit deeper, because I do
Okay.
think there are KPIs associated
Let's
We'll
first
just go on,
explain.
we can dig in.
Let's first explain just like the metric of revenue per employee.
Yeah.
And also in the context of marketing, like why do I care about revenue per employee? I'm a marketer I'm a marketer at the company. My job is to generate pipeline for the company. Like that's revenue per employee. That's like the CEO and CFO's job. I'm going to run campaigns to build pipeline. I don't understand.
I mean, maybe agree to disagree on that, Dave, because I think that revenue per employee is absolutely something that go to market and includes marketing within that should be either contributing to, if not directly attributing to, because there are three levers that go to market can control. One is volume of sales, so pipeline, right? Like one is velocity and also contract size. So the other, I think where go-to-market engineering is really helpful in terms of driving efficiencies is like what data flows where to what taxonomy, and how are you thinking about who needs to see what, where, and how. And if like sales enablement is a core component of how it is that like go-to-market engineering is thinking about their job and what it is that they're effectively trying to do, then the salespeople who are responsible for looking at the CRM and helping and all the intent signals of their key account lists, I think it helping to drive any one of those levers at a higher velocity is absolutely contributes to revenue per employee. So you're trying to get them to either close more deals faster or at higher contract values. And then the other way to look at revenue per employee, even if you don't drive more revenue, you can reduce headcount. So you can make that headcount more, you can make the company more efficient. So revenue goes up per headcount. Well, your marketing
in that.
function can reduce the headcount. So you would just be slightly more efficient.
So so instead of having multiple people on the team, ideally you can have a GTM engineer who's able to basically be like the concept of like 10x engineer, but for someone on the marketing team to be
Exactly.
one person with AI and tools to do lots of stuff. Got it. And by the way, I wasn't disagreeing with you. Like obviously revenue per employee is super important. I'm just trying to like put myself in the shoes of like
Totally.
the average marketing manager at the company. Like I get like I see people write about this on LinkedIn and it's like, SaaS marketing sucks and it's broken. Like the marketing team doesn't care about, CAC and the profitability. I'm like, do you think that the average 24-year-old marketing manager at a SaaS company has like the fingers on the controls of the profitability of the company? Like they don't. They're going to execute. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying at most companies, it is not. They don't have the breakdown. And so like we shouldn't be yelling at marketers about this. It's
That is
absolutely. And that's usually the crux of the issue in marketing is like
yes.
so many things come down to like, what is the company strategy? What are the company goals? Okay.
Yeah.
Huge, huge, everybody's on me in the chat right now. We got to get Dan in the mix and he's hijacking the chat. He's doing a great job. People just want to know, like, look, you brought Dan on this thing. We haven't even let the guy talk. They want to know what he does all day as a GTM engineer. So Dan already signed himself up for an Exit 5 AMA on this, so you better bring the heat right now, my friend.
Yeah, no, I actually came to this event to figure out what I should be doing all day. So no, I'm just kidding.
Great. That's great.
I think to preface
have you tried Claude?
Have I tried Claude? Not yet. No. To preface this answer, I think if I'm doing the same thing in 6 months that I'm doing today, I think I've failed as a GTM engineer. Like I think stuff is about to change in a big and meaningful way. Some areas I'm spending a lot of my time in right now is and I know people clown on this, like Clay and Unify and tools like that, testing them out, seeing what I can do when I create tables of target accounts, existing customers, what data points we can pull in, what actions we can trigger from that. That's a focus right now. I spent a good amount of time trying to upskill our internal employees on how to use tools like ChatGPT. And what I found is some people have a really hard time with prompting. So I kind of shifted that a bit and spending some time building out like a library of custom GPTs that kind of enables our sales team. And I think this is going to be something we're going to see a lot of people like kind of seeing some of their custom GPTs for people to kind of look into and pick and choose and bring into their own companies and adjust them to make them more relevant to your use case.
Can you explain for people on here who might be like the average, lightweight Chat GPT users? Can you explain custom GPTs, what they are, how they work, and how do you share them with the sales team?
Yeah, for sure. And it's very similar to, just when you're using ChatGPT, you're putting in your prompt, right? It's very similar to that, except for you find instances where there's reusable tasks. So tasks where you're going to be running this over and over again. Like if you're an agency and you're reviewing for every one of your clients all their nurture email sequences, right? Well, it would make sense to make a custom GPT, which is just a set of instructions you give ChatGPT so that when you paste in a subject line and the body content of an email, it goes through and says, hey, here are the 9 criteria that I want you to look at this email through the lenses of, and I want you to provide feedback on how we're doing in those 9 areas, and then give actionable feedback on what we should do next with this email. Is it good? Do we need to make improvements? And so it's just an instruction set for the GPT to kind of give a frame of reference of the request, right? And so it's really powerful when you have these reusable use cases and within your teams. But yeah, so spending some time like building that out for our team internally and also for our clients as well, of like what can we share with them. And then I think there's this kind of third area where I'm kind of dabbling in now, and I think it's more exploratory now. But I think somebody brought up MCP in chat, model context protocol, and this has kind of been hot in the streets recently.
Yeah, can you explain this to me? Like my second grader, everybody's talking about MCP. Oh, every time I open LinkedIn, oh, you guys need an MCP server for this, and I'm like, I think there's a lot of people talking about this, but they don't actually know really what it is. I don't know what it is. I'm just a thought leader guy. Why is Tom Wentworth asking tools that he uses to build their own, to let him build his own MCP server? Can somebody explain this to me like I'm a child? As I am.
For sure. Yeah. So I think it's an MCP server. It's basically an instruction set for LLMs, for tools like ChatGPT, to interact with tools and pull data out of it with context, right? So right now,
use an example while you explain it, like a popular tool that marketers might use.
I'll talk about HubSpot, because they just came out with their own like first-party MCP server. So basically, HubSpot, before they came out with their MCP, if you had an LM and you wanted it to pull data from HubSpot, it'd be using the API, kind of like how most tools interact with HubSpot. The MCP server creates, how do I simplify this more? It creates instructions basically where it's like, hey, if you get a request that's like, hey, give me all like my top 10 contacts, like it shows it how to pull all the contacts and then pull the information it needs to give the right output to the end user. So it's just more instructions on how to use the API for the LLM, basically, is a really simplified way of saying it. And so that's where I think right now I'm testing a lot of agents right now. Zapier agent I'm looking at because they have a nice free tier, and I'm doing some stuff, and I'm not entirely happy with the output, right? Like it's because it doesn't have all the data it needs to, like when it talks to HubSpot right now. I don't think they've adopted the MCP yet. And so like I was like, hey, give me this contact and tell me all the recent activity on the contact and summarize it so before I hop on a call. And it didn't do a good job of pulling the activity associated with the contact. That's because it didn't have any instruction on how it would go about doing that. So that's where I think as more tools come out with MCPs, like agents are going to become a lot more powerful. You're going to have marketers who, have agents that every day look at all their campaigns in LinkedIn and call out any ones that are, eating up budget but aren't, performing any results. And it might message you in the morning and say, hey, these campaigns aren't working really well. Do you want to take budget away? And if it has rate access, you could say, yes, take it budget away. And then it will like turn off the faucet for those. So that's kind of an actionable thing that I don't think we can do right now. But as these MCPs become, more prevalent, agents are going to be, and that's where I think in 6 months, I hope that I'll be spending a lot of time on, is how do we enable people through agents?
Cool. The agent examples are great, which is like, oh my gosh, there's so many things that I could think about right now that are kind of daily, weekly rhythms and routines that we do in marketing, whether it's website analytics or monitoring social or monitoring ad campaigns. We all work out of Slack, like to just have a bot that could basically send us updates in Slack, or it's like, hey Dave, here's a recap. I used Dharmesh's like agent AI. I sent it to Matt and Dan on our team last week, and I was like, here's a summary of your most popular LinkedIn posts over the last 6 months, and here are the trends, and here are the key topics, and like stuff like that is super useful. So would you as a company, I'm a writer, not a tech guy. Would you as a company, like, would we at Exit 5 have our own MCP server, and like we would connect to all of these other tools, and like that's where all of our stuff would live?
You would probably consume MCP servers rather than have your own, unless you have like a database where you're storing some data and you want to expose that to LLMs.
Okay.
I think real quick, the one thing my example was a good example, except for it only touched upon one system. I think where a lot of power will come is when these LLMs can interact with multiple data sources and pull the data together and bridge that gap. I think that's another really exciting thing that hopefully will happen.
Anybody want to build on those? Anything else?
The use case that I'm looking at just is like another, hopefully we can get there soon. I made the comment earlier about, enabling salespeople to go run with a custom GPT for creating marketing materials. Like the idea of using an MCP to connect, what I've been building with Claude for my product marketing brand projects where all that knowledge is stored, being able to connect those to a service like Gamma as an example, and be able to start having conversations between Claude and Gamma where the content is going straight from one tool to the other based on a series of prompts, and being able to just continue decreasing that time to market so that you can test ideas faster and get more tailored stuff out there.
A lot of Dan fans in the chat right now. This is like this is great. It's great. They want this tactical stuff. They want this specific stuff. I tried last night. I was like, why can't I just, I had to schedule an event on my calendar, and it's very cumbersome to click 5 times into Google Calendar. And I was like, why can't I just go to my ChatGPT and write in my ChatGPT and say, book a call with John Short tomorrow at 1 p.m. on my calendar. And I thought you could do it with Zapier and ChatGPT, but I think their integration was busted and I couldn't do it. I got to work on that later. But these like mini recipes, and that's just a silly one. Like I want to operate as my life and a marketer. I'm getting used to, and I was listening to Jason Lemkin talk about this earlier in the week. Like software tools there's going to be a big disruption happening where like we are all getting used to now writing text-based prompts to these tools and getting this amazing output. And so I want to be able to say, put a meeting on my calendar tomorrow at 3:00 to, and just write a voice command or write 2 lines of text to be able to do that. Think about all the other things in marketing that we now expect to be able to do that. It's like, there's a world where like, why would I ever log into Salesforce ever again?
100%.
So actually, we've been using Day.ai as the CRM for compound growth marketing. They are starting to play around with agents, and so we have those capabilities inside some of the tools that we're using already. The one thing that I would kind of underline there is, in order to be able to write those prompts and have it connect with Salesforce and have Salesforce talk to HubSpot and then have HubSpot collect data from Clay, you need to have the proper wiring set up inside of your business. And so I think marketing is moving towards this state of simplicity where there's going to be less need for specialists and more need for generalists who can do a lot of different things and in a lot of different ways. And so, that prompt, I think, is a great example of why we need to focus on building systems that are building software into systems that talk to each other and allow you to spin up a campaign by writing a prompt and having it talk to Canva and HubSpot and all the different platforms.
Yeah, actually, I saw in one of our notes that I meant to get back to, there was a note from something Justin did with like Claude and GenSpark. Is that a or Gamma maybe? Did you build something like that?
So, well, we had somebody on our RevOps team build an onboarding application is a big part of our process. Somebody in the chat was talking about, time to revenue. So for us, that's something that's actually really important. We send people through this application process for underwriting, and we've been leaning on classic form tools like, JotForm, all the different ones that are out there. But one of our guys on the RevOps team went and used Claude Code and built a fully customizable, configurable, like onboarding workflow for our customers that was just top notch. And being able to do stuff like that, like this idea of prototyping and bringing things out faster, is one of the big things that I'm seeing add value in a big way. So that's an example of like when you get somebody in the pipeline or in the door, that's another example of how you can get them faster through the revenue.
Nice. I like it. I think there's just it now to me is the time to question everything. Like I'm trying to even do it in my personal life and just like how I would go through and create something in the past is different now. And so it's like, yeah, okay, I could use Canva and I'm going to use Gamma and I'm going to write this ChatGPT prompt. I think it's like you got to force yourself to try to learn some of these things. And I also think that's how we go beyond the like V1 of this AI stuff was just like AI. There's a lot of AI slop, like, AI generated content. And I love it. I think that is, I lick my chops when I see that stuff and see people talking about it, because I think that for real marketers, for people who understand the craft of marketing, the art of storytelling and building a brand and positioning and creative, like huge opportunity. Marketing is not AI slop. That's just going to be like, yeah, you didn't buy a $200,000 piece of software because that company wrote like a cute listicle back in the day. It's going to be the same thing. And so it's going to get, it's going to make marketing really hopefully do meaningful stuff and matter again. Okay. We have a couple, we obviously this went by really fast. I'll try to get to a couple questions, but I know that the CGM team is good at marketing and they're thoughtful on this stuff. And so we'll give you guys all these Q&As, and John, I'm sure you and the team will probably maybe like write up responses to these. There's a lot of follow-up that we could do for this. And by the way, anybody in the chat that was chirping me about, you came to this to understand what GTM engineering is, like you could have just gone to ChatGPT and asked what the heck is GTM engineering. Like you didn't have to come to this. So that's, we're all here for a reason. This question from me, Ted. Yeah. What?
Can I jump in? If people could drop the tools that they're using in their go-to-market engineering stack,
okay,
in the chat, I'd love to see like,
all right,
Clay, Air
do that now.
like
what are you using? What are your GTM engineering tools? Mine is like, I use this great tool by OpenAI called ChatGPT. Sick.
I want to hear that. And I also feel like this group is a good group to ask the question of like, there seem to be some really big feelings about go-to-market engineering. I want to know what those big feelings are.
What are the big feelings? I think my perspective on it is that the big feelings come from people just roll their eyes whenever we create more new, it's just a rebrand. And that to me is just LinkedIn, like perfect LinkedIn fodder for like marketers to yell at each other about. And I think we as marketers, like I tell my wife about these things. She's like, who cares? She doesn't work in marketing.
Yeah.
I think there's just something about marketers being marketers arguing about, well, no, that's always been ABM or RevOps, da, da, da. So I don't think it's anything other than that.
Perspective on that. And I love when there's a rebrand. And the reason why I love it is because I think that it's a signal that the former brand has been diluted, that calls for a rebrand. So like there's this like founder mindset that like there's this need for something new about the role. And I think that go-to-market engineering is like a call for, there's a what was formerly known as RevOps has been so diluted because you're working in these existing systems. And if you're anything like me, like a person like Dan, who is a representative of someone in RevOps who's really good, and you've worked with some really sucky RevOps people. And that big swing of like Dan and sucky is that is indicative of what we've all worked with. Now there's this opportunity to, like, when you post a job posting for a go-to-market engineer and RevOps, you're going to get two very different profiles of people. You're going to get all Dans when you post a go-to-market engineer, versus when you post RevOps. So I think that's like, to me, that's an indicator. And I don't know, I like these registrants.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Like I'm thinking, when I think of RevOps, I think of a partner of mine in a previous company, and their job was much more like on the reporting side and managing the like SLA between marketing and sales. And the GTM engineer to me is more of like growth hacker, creator, you know, making landing pages and tools and webs, you know, that just doing stuff.
Yeah, a little more.
Yes. Okay, that's really good. John, you got the chat blew up with a bunch of tools. Some good stuff in there.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of AirOps. Jasper just came up, a lot of the LLMs, ChatGPT, Claude, some that I need to look into, like Relume.io. Oh, Justin, you dropped that one in there.
I'm just gonna make
Love
a
it.
name right now. Snake.
Trigify, Common Room, that whole class is really interesting right now. So
Yeah.
thanks for sharing.
Okay, let's wrap on this, and then before you leave, we have a poll. We need to do our AI agent is going to ask you to rate this session, and because the feedback really helps. But just kind of synthesizing a couple questions. Is there somebody who's listening to this who kind of gets what the role is and maybe believes in it? Is there like a stage or size of the company or time that it makes sense to bring this? Is this an early stage? Is it later stage? Like, when do you think about hiring this person?
Yeah, I'd be looking at bringing it in the first 5 marketing hires at the very least that you're bringing into the organization. We got an interesting question a couple of weeks ago from somebody who we're talking to, who works with a lot of different businesses, and they were trying to figure out when the right time is to start building AI integration into their business and specifically into the marketing stack, and they wanted to build a base layer for marketing before they started really investing in AI. And you can't get too early here. I think you want to be thinking about how you can grow as efficiently as possible, and how you can be reducing the cost to acquire a customer, and how you can boost the revenue per employee. And so I think having a really strong systems thinker, no matter what you want to call them, having a really strong systems thinker in the organization who can help you scale how you use artificial intelligence to create content, to support product marketing with getting feedback from customers, and automate those workflows is going to be really important for any business. So it's one of the first 3 to 5 roles that I'd look to bring on in any organization.
Also seems like one of those, like, when and if you're interviewing someone and they're listing off all these tools and they're telling you about things that they built, that's your GTM engineer. Okay, please, real quick, go to on the top. There's like that polls tab. Go to polls, and we ask you to please rate today's session, not a webinar, on a scale of 1 to 5. Leave us some feedback. But hey, I had a blast. Like, this was fun riffing with you all. We got some great comments and feedback. The chat was, I'm going to give it up to the chat today. Our panel was great, but I'm going to give it up to the chat. That was electric. We had 260 people in here today, and like, clearly passion. I think we got to do more of this. I think people want to hear real specific examples. We gotta keep relying on the chat. No slides, no promo. This was lovely. Good job all around. Dan, Cammy, Justin, we'll see you all on LinkedIn and in the Slacks and emails and around. John, good to see you.